Welcome to Total Retail Talks, your podcast channel for retail knowledge.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of Total Retail Talks. I'm Joe Keenan of Total Retail, and I am joined today by Phillip Raub, who is the CEO of Model Number. We're going to talk to Phillip today a little bit about the company and its sustainable business model, and get to know a little bit more about Model Number as well as Phillip. So thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, Joe, thanks for having me on. Thrilled to be on here and chat a little bit more about kind of what we're doing at Model Number and talking about the industry as a whole.
Yeah, great. So let's jump right into it and just have you start by telling our audience a little bit about Model Number and kind of how you ended up there. I know you've recently named CEO, and tell us a little bit about your journey to Model Number in addition to the company.
Yeah, that's right. So I joined the company in early July. And Model Number, what really kind of the ethos of the company is that we saw, or the founders, Jillian, Jeffrey, and Bonnie, saw that there were a lot of pain points within the furniture space. There was lack of innovation. The industry as a whole is not very sustainable. There's lack of customization of product. And when customization does exist, the lead times are exceptionally long, and it's very costly. And so through 3D printing, as well as automated production, Model Number was born, and really to kind of solve the problem of how painful shopping for furniture can be in today's market.
So you have an entrepreneurial background. This is a startup brand at Model Number that you've joined. Tell us a little bit about your professional background and kind of what drew you to Model Number.
Yeah, sure. As you mentioned, I do have an entrepreneurial background. Previous to Model Number, I founded a company called Beta, and Beta was really the first retail as a service brand. Myself and my partners, we had met at Nest. We were all there kind of previous to the Google acquisition. And at Beta, we saw a huge opportunity to kind of shake up the retail industry. Again, leveraging technology, bringing where we saw a lot of companies were being exceptionally stagnant. The business model was stale. We saw that there was a huge opportunity to do something different. And Beta started back in 2015. We brought innovation and did a lot of partnerships with brands like Lowe's. Brought back the Toys R Us brand, and did a lot of really new and unique things in the retail space. And so I stepped aside from my day-to-day role at Beta, where I'm still actively on the board, but did that in the late March, early April timeframe, and was kind of figuring out what my next move was going to be. And had this amazing opportunity to come and join Model Number as the CEO. And what really intrigued me about the company was the again, sustainability is something that's really kind of personal to me. I wanted to make sure that we weren't leaving. I was going to say to leave a footprint, but actually it's quite the opposite. I want to make sure that we're not leaving a footprint in this space. And thought that the furniture industry was an industry, again, similar to like retail, that's been stagnant for a lot of years. And I think a lot of the companies involved in the space have been getting a pass and haven't been doing much. And now it's time to shake it up a little bit.
So I want to touch on that, not leaving a footprint and that kind of sustainable business model. Tell us a little bit more about why Model Number has made that a kind of a core pillar of its business, being a sustainable and environmentally responsible business.
Yeah, for sure. Look, when you look at how people are thinking about products, and there's a lot of focus on the home today. Obviously, a lot of people are spending a lot more time at home than they ever had before, and they're kind of looking around, and I think it's important as well as you see some of the things that are happening. A lot of different climate changes. I live in California. Every year now, it becomes fire season. It gets worse and worse. And so I think people are starting to recognize and say that they actually can play a pretty large part in the things that they're doing to help the environment, and make sure that they're not leaving a large footprint kind of behind them for future generations. And so one of the things, while we recognize that, people are not going to buy furniture purely because it is sustainable, it still has to be, it has to still have great design behind it. It still has to be highly functional. And so we recognized that we needed to kind of check those boxes first, right? We need to make sure that, our products are really unique, that that they're highly differentiated, that people can come in and customize them, and make sure that they fit their lifestyle. But in doing so, by doing that, if you have the opportunity to pick what you want and then provide people the avenue to do it in a very sustainable fashion, we think that that makes for a really kind of strong business model. And so for us, our products are all made with non-petroleum based PLAs, which is made from food waste, as well as reclaimed and regenerative wood.
So I'm going to touch on the product itself in a second. Just for some background for the audience in terms of model number, and I should have asked this up front. Obviously, the direct-to-consumer website or any other sales channels for the company?
Right now, we just started off with a traditional kind of direct-to-consumer model through modelnumber.com. As we grow, I've already, since we relaunched the website in mid-October, I've gotten a lot of inbound, requests and traffic for different partnerships. So, we are looking at a lot of different, business models, and different, I should say, kind of distribution models.
Yeah.
At this point right now, it's solely through, modelnumber.com. But we will, continue to explore those. My background is in physical retail. And so, we do see that, moving forward, that there's going to be probably an opportunity to get the hands on with product, because it is such a unique kind of look and feel to things. But, I think we're going to be very kind of diligent in, how we look at kind of going to market and ensuring that it's the right thing, both for, for the consumer, as well as, I think, to make sure that, financially it makes sense for us as a company.
Yeah. And then that end customer, you mentioned the consumer, is it strictly B2C? Do you have B2B involved as well, or just like I said, the B2C customer at this
Yeah,
point?
today we're really focused just on B2C right now. But as I mentioned, I've gotten a lot of inbound leads for different kind of unique B2B opportunities. I think as a small company, doing a B2B lift just because of the amount of volume it requires, it's not something that we're focused on today. But I can tell you that it's definitely something that we have planned, and will be a large part of our business, I think, moving forward.
Yeah, potential opportunity. So, Phillip, you alluded to the product itself, and as the company notes, that it's the first custom furniture brand that operates at the intersection of technology, design, and sustainability. What does that mean for Model Number and its products in particular?
Yeah, as I mentioned, look, I think anytime that you're going out and buying furniture, anything you're buying, apparel, accessories, it's important, obviously, that the consumer resonates and finds that the look of the product is relevant. And so we realized that we need to make, artfully and well-designed products. And so, we start there, and that's how we kind of start with everything. And then, from that, we take the design but at the same time, we want to create something unique, because we do think that the industry today, there's a lot of mass brands that are fairly stagnant. You can kind of go out and find the same exact look everywhere. So we want to make sure that our products have a very kind of, I would say, unique, look and feel to them. And that's really critical. But at the same time, that's the start, and that's the base of it. What we've really done then is layered on this element of customization, where you as the consumer can go into onto modelnumber.com, and you have two options. You can take one of the presets that we've kind of our design team has put together, and you can go in and you do some slight modifications in the same way that, like, if you were purchasing a car, there's the base model. You can go in and change the color. You can change the interior. You can do something very similar with our products, right? Where you go in and you choose the wood that you want, and then maybe you kind of some other slight modification, and then you can go and purchase that item, and it's very easy for the consumer, very kind of low lift to it. They feel like that they have had an opportunity still to add some level of kind of customization or personalization to it. Or you can go to our design studio and get a lot more creative, right? Once you enter into our design studio, the opportunities become endless, right? You can start to looking at, do you want, rounded edges or square edges on maybe a table? Do you want to, change the dimensions because, all of a sudden you're looking for a dining room table, and, you realize that, some people live in small apartments and you want something small. So some people may, have something that they want to, seat 8, 10, 12 people, right? And you want to maybe to expand that out. You have the opportunity to toggle and play with the dimensions. You can change, if it's the 3D printed stuff, you have a wide variety of different colors that you can choose from. So we really give the opportunity to go in and to customize that product. And then lastly, like we talked about, I think all of it is under the guise that, what you're doing is a highly sustainable and eco-friendly product. And I think that really is kind of, then on top of like all of the other differentiated elements, this is really just the last and final piece that I think makes people feel really good and strong about their purchase.
So one thing that we've seen during the pandemic and the last 7-8 months is that certain categories have seen a slight uptick in traffic and business, and furniture being one of them. As you alluded to, more people are spending more time at home, and home offices have been a need for a lot of people across the country. So with that in mind, maybe you want to talk about the category itself and kind of where you see model numbers positioning now, and then looking ahead a little bit, the prospects for the category going forward, and what you're doing to differentiate model number from some of those mass sellers. You didn't name them, but the big mass sellers that we know of in the furniture category. Product in that innovative product design that you talked about. Anything else in terms of status of the category now, and then where you see it going, and kind of how model number can really be a player in the furniture space?
Yeah, for sure. If you look at the category today, I think some of the growth projections I've seen are that by 2027, the categories roughly would be about a $650 billion category. So we think that there's obviously a lot of market share and opportunity within the space. We do think that kind of, look, we're not trying to compete in the fast furniture kind of, realm of where things are highly disposable. I think that needs to change. And we do think that, through our technology, we can start to make price points a lot more accessible as our business starts to scale. And because people do care, right? I mean, there's so much waste, of furniture that ends up in landfill. I think it's like 20% of landfills are made up of furniture. A lot of that is actually some office furniture, which hopefully will start to not be as much of the case in the future. But we think that as the category continues to grow, we also think that people are going to be looking, and there's going to be a lot more focus. People are going to be a lot more conscious, I think, of the purchases and the things that they're making and that they're bringing into their home. And I just personally, I used to travel a lot for work, and now I've been spending so much more time, all the things that my wife used to, kind of, talk about the house. We need to do this, we need to do that. When I was on the road, 2 weeks of a month, I didn't necessarily notice them because they weren't, as prevalent to me. And, now I'm here all the time, and I realize, like, no, we actually need to change that, or we need to think and be more, thoughtful about the purchases here and the things that we're doing. And I think most people are starting to think that way. And so I think that's where we think at Model Number, there's a huge opportunity for us to educate, I think, the consumer a lot more, and to really, understand, who they are and what kind of, fits their needs. And, as we look at the category as a whole, we think that today a lot of the mass brands have been doing a disservice. Again, I think a lot of the offerings are pretty bland and stale from a design perspective. We talked a little bit obviously on the sustainability piece. 60 to 70% of products are coming in and are being imported from Asia today. They're not highly sustainable, and we think that we want to kind of bring back a lot of that kind of domestic manufacturing, sourcing our products here on a local basis, and really focusing in on developing long-term what we call micro factories that will allow us to set up small manufacturing facilities within within kind of geographic markets, and then ultimately allow people to recycle and upcycle their furniture when it's time to necessarily kind of maybe move on or to progress to something new within kind of the furniture category.
So you speak of that opportunity, that market share opportunity that exists within the category, and there's a ripe. Some of the mass brands may be ripe to be cut into that that market share that they currently own. Model number is going that in a couple different ways through your innovative product design, the commitment to sustainability that you've mentioned, domestic manufacturing, just some of the things that you just spoke of, which leads into my next question, Phillip, in terms of creating that marketing approach, that marketing strategy, getting that brand messaging out there to the consumer. What are you doing to kind of create that brand awareness and drive customer acquisition from a marketing front?
Yeah, marketing is very important to us. We realize that we need to go in and capture market share and make sure that we also have kind of proper kind of customer and market fit. My first hire, when I started, was to bring on a head of marketing, and so we brought on a very talented individual, and so Lauren Dreeland is joined the team in September. Really kind of strong background in kind of D2C as well as media. And so, very excited, obviously, to start to build out, the team, on the marketing side. But, we think that it comes down to being, a combination between, an organic, as well as, having to go out and, a highly targeted, paid media plan. And so, for us, it's really about kind of showing customers what we're all about instead of just necessarily telling them, right? It's about giving them kind of a really open and transparent look into kind of what we're doing. We've started, posting a lot of the videos of the production of how our products are made. And really, as a company, look, we think that if we're going to have a claim of being, highly sustainable and eco-friendly, we have to be transparent. And those are the things we want to kind of continue to share and let people see, kind of behind the scenes of what it is that we're doing. And at the same time, we also think that's about kind of challenging and calling out, the industry as a whole. Because we all have to be better. It's you look at kind of what Allbirds did, when Amazon, had been kind of accused of maybe potentially copying, what they were doing kind of with the look and feel of their shoes. And I mean, the response of Allbirds was like, great, like we'll share it. Like, we want you to, we're trying to create a better planet here, and we're trying to do things in kind of this more altruistic type of view. Like, if you want it, we'll share it with you. We're not trying to hold back. We just think that we're going to create a better product than you will anyway. So like, we're going to win. And I think it's the same thing that we feel is like, we want the category as a whole. We want people to improve. And if it means, having to share, and, that how we're doing that, I think, to some degree, obviously, there's certain things that we want to protect the RIP, but we're open to doing that. We want to make sure that people are doing things in a better way. And we think that we can be the leader in doing it because of the team that we've assembled, as well as the technology that we've built. We think that we're, still probably 2 to 3 years ahead of anybody else in this space.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You guys have that proprietary knowledge in house. You've kind of gathered the expertise. To your point, you have a little bit of a head start. So, which takes me into my final question, Phillip.
Yeah, sorry, just to comment on that. Yeah, our Jeffrey McGrew, who's the one of the co-founders and our CTO. I mean, Jeffrey is I'm just continually blown away by like how knowledgeable, and what an expert he is in this space, and his just quest for knowledge and continuing to like, we've built the 3D printers in house, because Jeffrey and the team have gone out and gotten the parts and things at like a fraction of the cost of what you would do if you went out and bought enterprise grade stuff. It would be millions, if not tens of millions of dollars to build some of the machinery that we've done on just, like I said, a fraction of that. So it really is a testament, I think, to the team and the work that's been put into it.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. So as our first episode of 2021, I think it's probably obligatory that I ask you a little bit of a look ahead question as to what you see and where your attention may be focused as you look to kind of grow model number in 2021. And then maybe a second part to that is, just in general, what do you see for the retail industry, going into this new year?
Yeah, look, I think 2020 was, when we look back at it, obviously it'll be an interesting year to kind of look back at it, maybe 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when we look back at, I think it'll be a very pivotal year. Kind of putting aside, obviously, the all of the health crises that we've kind of gone through, as a on a global scale. What it will show is, I think, just a couple things. One, I think resilience as well as innovation. I've been, saw somebody yesterday ask a question on, I think it was somewhere about if you could bring back, like any retailer that's kind of a business, who would it be? And talking about kind of innovation and in the retail space. And I was, starting to think, and I looked, and I'm like, who's really doing things well? And there's a lot of brands, obviously, some of the big companies, having, a tremendous year, like in the mass retailers, but it's really the small businesses, to me, that are doing a phenomenal job. I think that they've been so resilient, that if you look at what they're doing, here in San Francisco, I just look at so many small companies. They've adapted to technology faster than they ever thought they were going to need to, just purely out of, kind of out of desperation and survival. And so, that's really what's exciting, is that I think we'll look back and realize that we just moved so far in advance in the things that, I think we thought were even capable. And that, to me, will show, I think, for years to come, of just what is in how people operate. So the next time that somebody says, "Oh, we don't have the resources, or we can't spend money on technology or time on that," no, you absolutely can, because you realize of what's going to happen if you don't. And I think that's what's exciting. I think that's what we'll start to see a lot more of, and I think you'll see companies be a lot more nimble. I think you'll cut through a lot of the bureaucracy of things that traditionally have been a roadblock to get things done. And so I think that's what 2021, to me, you'll start to kind of see, and we'll see a long-lasting effect that comes out of that.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Kind of that survival instinct and the acceleration of kind of digital innovation and what retailers and needed to do to survive 2020. And it was sort of compressed, almost 3-4 years worth of a technology roadmap was compressed into 9 months or so. And you can maybe expect the brands and retailers to see kind of the fruits of that labor in 2021.
Yeah, it really is the acceleration of that, as well as, I think, too, just realizing that we probably, as a society, got overly bogged down with creating, I would say, almost false roadblocks, in the way that we do things. I live in San Francisco, and even on one of the ballot initiatives this past election was about limiting or allowing for permits to be more easily issued. And for small businesses and things that they can do. And it's like, yeah, you realize that, in the times and here in a lot of businesses had to start opening like parklets and outdoor eating, things. This stuff typically took like 18 months to get approval. And here they are approving them in, like a matter of like weeks, right? And you realize it's not actually creating anything detrimental. In fact, it's actually causing businesses to flourish. I saw businesses that actually probably had more seating outdoors than they did in their entire indoor facility, right? And so, again, it's those types of things, I think, where we look back, I think we just became so mired in some minutia that I think that it's also at the same time allows people to realize, look, no, we can actually do this. And I think it just even changed the mindset in many ways, but also just shows how resilient I think we are as people.
Yeah, that's a great point, and a nice way to conclude our conversation. I want to thank Phillip Raub of Model Number for joining me today on Total Retail Talks. Thank you, Phillip.
Oh, Joe, I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening. For more information on this podcast, please check out our podcast channel page at mytotalretail.com/podcast for show notes. Total Retail Talks is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify. Make sure to subscribe on our podcast channel page as well. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a few moments to rate and review this podcast. Thanks, and until next time, this has been Total Retail Talks.